In the next 3 tutorials, I will be covering these 8 functions here. So up until this point, we have already covered about 7 functions or maybe more. These functions are the functions that you should know when using Microsoft Excel. So let's start with the first function, which is count A function. Simple but also very useful function. So what count A do for you? Well, it just finds the empty cell like this within your data, and it will just come back to you and say that you got some empty cells within your data, and it will give you back a 0 to tell you that the cell is empty. So now let's write out a count A function. So I'll just put my cell here equals count A, open parentheses, and now it is asking for value 1. So all you need to do is just come to this cell here, the cell that you want to check. So we'll just select this cell here, and we can just close this off and press enter. And you can see that it gives you back 1 because we already have a value in this cell. So now I'll just click, hold and drag to autofill in this column. And as you can see, we have a 0 here, here and here. And like I said a minute ago, any cells that are empty will come back as 0. So that's all with the count A function. Now we are going to move on to next function, which is the rank function. And by the way, you can see these gray boxes here that I've included, and basically it just gives you a brief summary of what each of these functions actually do. So you can just refer them if you want. So now let's move on to the rank function. So we have this scenario here, and in this scenario I have these 10 individuals and they have set in these 3 exams, which is English, Maths and Science exam. And what I have done with each of these individuals is, first of all, I have worked out an average for all of these exam results. And for that I have just used an average function. And then quite simply I have used a sum function here to add up all of these results, and this is the total. But what I would like to do now is give them a rank. There are 10 students and the person with highest marks should get the rank 1 and the person with the least marks should get the rank 10. Now I could, if I wanted to, just select the cell here, come to this sort and filter and sort this largest to smallest, and I will get the person with the highest mark here. But for now I'll just undo my actions by holding Ctrl and pressing Z. And like I said, I want to see what number rank every person gets. So we will use a rank function to find this out. So to start off with our rank function, I'll put my cell here equals rank, open parentheses, and now it is asking for the number. And what you need to do is you need to just focus on this column here. So I could, if I wanted to, focus on the average here, but what I want to do for now is focus on the total column here. So I'll select the first cell on the top of the column and a comma will go in, and now it is asking for the reference. So for that you need to select the whole column itself, including this first cell. So I'll just select the whole column, and this needs to be absolute, so I'll just click F4 to make it absolute. And now I will just close this off and press enter, and I can see that this person Mike has the rank number 2. And now what I can do is I can just use autofill to fill in the rest of this column, and here I have a good idea of who is number 1, number 2 and so on. And now what I can do is I can just select the top cell here, come to sort and filter and sort it smallest to largest. And I can see that the person who has the number 1 rank is this Peter M. So that's how our rank function works. Okay, so now we're going to move on to sum if function. So we do know how to use a sum function, and basically what it does for you is it just adds up your data, and it's as simple as that. But let's say I want to do something like this. I would like to use the sum function within this table here, but I would like to use it for certain categories. So for instance, I want to look at the total or get the total for all of the tonnage for steel. And as you can see, there are three inputs for steel, which is first is here, this one is second, and this one is third. And I would like to add them up. So you could do this way. You could just use a sum function just like I have done here. So all you need to do is just type your sum function, select this first cell here, then put a comma, then the second cell and put a comma, and then the third cell and press enter. So now we will use a sum if function to work out everything that I did there and quickly use autofill to fill in this small table. And we can get the total tonnage for each of these metal categories. So I'll start my function. I'll just put my cell here, equals sum if open parentheses. So within this sort of instruction area, first thing we need to do is we need to select the range. So this is the range it would look at. So we'll just select this whole column. And now I'm gonna press F4 to make it absolute. Now I'll put my comma in, and now it is asking for the criteria. And this means that what do you want to look for within the range that you have selected. And that would be the cell that have the word steel in it. But unfortunately, it is actually hidden behind the function that we are writing. But I do know the reference, and I think it is H57. So I'll just type it out, H57. And I'll put my comma in, and now it is asking for the sum range, which means that what range do you want to add up, and that would be this range here, because remember I want to find the total tonnage for each of these categories. And I'll just make it absolute by clicking F4. Now I will close my function off and I'll press enter. And now you can see that this figure is exactly matching with this figure here. And now I can use autofill to get all my answers. And just to double check some of these answers, I can see that there are two inputs for gold, which is this one here and this one here. And if I add them up, it will be 2.8, which is here you can see that it is 2.8. So now we can say that it is correct. So now we are going to move on to average if function. Now it's exactly the same process, except this time we are going to find the average. So instead of adding all of these inputs here, we are now going to find out the average for each of these metal categories. So now I'll put my function here. So I'll just select the cell, starting off with equals average if open parentheses, and now it is asking us for the range, which will be this column here. We'll press F4 to make it absolute. My comma will go in, and now it is asking for the criteria, which is hidden behind this function here in this cell. So I'll just type it out, and that will be H74, and my comma will go in, and now it is asking for the average range. So for that we need to select this column here, and we need to make it absolute by clicking F4. And now I can just close off my function and press enter, and you can see that our average function has given us the answer 436, which is exactly the same answer that we have here. And for this answer we have used an average function. So yeah, we can say that it is correct. So now I can use autofill to fill in the rest of my answers. So I'll just select that and click, hold and drag. Okay, now you can see that all of the answers have filled in. And just double checking on gold once again, the total of gold comes to 2.8 and the average would be 1.4, because there's two values for gold and 2.8 divided by 2 is equals to 1.4. So we can say that it's all correct.